Gabriel Johnson, America's 250, lighting the way. Born in 1824 in Spotsylvania County, Virginia, Gabriel would move to Pittsylvania County, Virginia as a child. He and his mother Matilda lived on the Sulphur Springs plantation owned by John Ward, Jr. This map marks Spotsylvania County and Pittsylvania County. This is a map of 1814 Sulphur Springs. Sulphur Springs was named for the natural sulphur springs found in the area. People traveled from all over the country to bathe or drink from the springs, hoping to heal the illnesses. The plantation named Sulphur Springs was owned by John Ward, Jr., who was Gabriel Johnson's owner. Ward was born in 1743. He was the son of Major John Ward and Anne Childs. At the time of his death, he owned 10,000 acres, and in his will, he freed his slaves. All the slaves over the age of 15 received $20, and a few special slaves received $150 to start their new life of freedom. 48 of Ward's freed slaves would settle in Lawrence County, Ohio. That 48 included Gabriel Johnson and his mother, Matilda. Gabriel would spend part of his childhood in Lawrence County. Then he would move to Cincinnati, Ohio. Pictured here is as Cincinnati would have looked in 1841. While in Cincinnati, Gabriel began his work on the Underground Railroad in 1846. He worked as a barber in Madison House, where he partnered with Beverly Wilkinson. His work on the Underground Railroad would continue in Cincinnati until 1856. On the 2nd of September, 1849, Gabriel returned to Lawrence County to marry Ritter Ann Robertson. This is a copy of their marriage license as it appeared in the Lawrence County, Ohio records. Ritter, or Rita as she was sometimes known, was born in Granville County, North Carolina on the 10th of May, 1827. Within 5 years of their marriage, Gabriel and Rita would return to Ironton in approximately 1854. Pictured here are the routes the Underground Railroad took through Lawrence County. When Gabriel Johnson returned to Lawrence County and Ironton, he found the Underground Railroad already established. But he used his expertise from his work in Cincinnati on the Underground Railroad to help further organize and make it more successful in Lawrence County. He often partnered with James Ditcher, a conductor well known as the Sly Fox or the Red Fox. Gabriel Johnson owned a barber shop, and because of his business, he rarely was able to leave Ironton to assist the runaways themselves on their path to freedom. He often had to trust men like James Ditcher to guide them. When the 1850 census was taken, Gabriel and Ritter were living in Fayette Township, close to where the Burlington part of the Underground Railroad for Lawrence County took place. He was working as a barber. He would actually own barber shops in the Fayette Township, Hanging Rock, and Ironton. Mary Ann Robinson, a relative of Ritta's, was living in the household with him. On the 19th of July, 1850, the couple would welcome their first daughter, Mary Ann Johnson. Pictured here is one of the ads that Gabriel Johnson had issued in the Spirit of the Times and Ironton newspaper about his barbering and hairdressing shop. It was located on Front Street near the Ironton House Hotel, which is also pictured. He would be one of the first black barbershop owners in Ironton and in Hanging Rock. Gabriel didn't just own a barbershop. He even expanded his business into a bathhouse. Sadly, according to this ad taken out in the Spirit of Times in June 1855, he had to close his bathhouse due to financial problems. Apparently, it was not able to make a profit. On the 8th of January, 1858, Gabriel Johnson purchased Lot 668 in Ironton from Thomas Fagan. He paid $85, or just over $3,300 in 2026. This property would become Quinn Chapel African Methodist Episcopal Church. Retta and their daughter helped to raise money for the church's construction. To honor their part in founding Quinn Chapel, a stained glass would be placed in the church with Gabriel and Retta's name on it. By the time the 1860 census was taken, Gabriel Johnson and his wife Retta had moved to Ironton. He was still working as a barber, and they had added 3 children to their household: Mary Jane, Florilla, born the 19th of December, 1857, and Samuel, born July, 1860. The family also had a servant listed, Margaret Robinson. The value of the real estate owned by Gabriel Johnson was $800, or over $500,000 in 2026. Gabriel Johnson would purchase 2 pieces of property. The first is pictured here, marked with an orange star, was Quinn Chapel. The second was purchased on the 20th of December, 1862, and is marked with a black star. He purchased Lot 645 from the Ohio Coal and Iron Company. That was the company responsible for laying out the city of Ironton and selling the lots. This new piece of property, located on 8th Street, would become his home. When the census was taken on the 29th of June, 1870, for the Johnson household in Ironton, 2 things stand out. First, the real estate owned by Gabriel was now worth $2,500, which would be equivalent to over $1.1 million in 2026. The second piece of information was the absence of Ritter and Gabriel's son, Samuel. Although his 2 daughters are listed, his son is notably absent. This is probably a sign that he passed away, although no death record was found for Samuel. A well-recognized member of the community, Gabriel Johnson ran for office for the first time. He would be one of the first black people to run for political office in Lawrence County, Ohio. He ran for Justice of the Peace for the Common Pleas Court in 1870. His efforts resulted in him receiving only 9 votes. In 1871, Gabriel would suffer another loss when his mother, Matilda Johnson, died at the age of 85 on the 26th of June, 1871. Her obituary would appear in the Ironton Journal on the 29th of July, 1871. Her death occurred in Portsmouth, Scioto County, Ohio. Her obituary did mention that she had been born a slave in Virginia and freed by the will of her owner, John Ward, in the year 1825. She also had been a resident of Lawrence County for 46 years. Although Gabriel Johnson was unsuccessful in his attempt to be elected Justice of the Peace in 1870, it did not stop him from running again in 1874. And sadly, for a second time, he was not elected to the office. In fact, it was noted that he received the least amount of votes of every candidate in Lawrence County. The above article appeared in the Ironton Register on the 30th of July, 1874, listing the Justice of the Peace that had been elected in Lawrence County, the townships they covered, and the terms that they were elected to. When the 1880 census was taken, Gabriel and Ritter were still living in Ironton. Their daughter Florilla, who had married on the 20th of February, 1872, to Wilbur Craig, was living in the household with her husband and two children, Ulysses and Wilbur. Gabriel, Wilbur, and a boarder named Charles Locker were all working as barbers. On the 8th of August, 1893, Ritter Ann Robinson Johnson passed away. She was buried in Section 4, Lot 61 of Woodland Cemetery. Less than 6 years later, on the 18th of July, 1899, Gabriel Johnson passed away. He was laid to rest next to his wife in Woodland Cemetery. No obituary appeared in the Ironton newspapers for either person.